Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's good to be back home from our legislative session. My comments will be brief. Senator Thompson covered a lot of what went on, so I'll probably just highlight a couple bills that we talked about in the legislature this past legislative session. So, the Nurses Licensure Compact, that allows nurses to be able to practice here in Florida coming from other states and vice versa. We expanded prescribing authority to nurse practitioners and physician assistants. And this would just give access to care in rural areas where doctors are not available. In our Medicaid budget, we did not expand coverage for the Affordable Care Act. But there were some good things in the Medicaid budget. We expanded kid care eligibility to all children residing lawfully in the United States. We argued against another abortion bill, as Senator Thompson mentioned, which sought to shut down clinics, defund abortion providers, and so much more. We passed a huge education bill, which had mandatory recess in schools. We saw a lot of teachers and parents that came to Tallahassee advocating for a recess for young people, which we believe will add to their learning. And so that passed. We spread evenly the capital outlay for charter schools. So capital outlay is what the funds that they use to build the buildings that they house these students in. And so before certain schools got priority, we spread that money out evenly. There was a pilot program that passed that gave principals in failing schools more budgetary and administrative control. In our education budget, our per student funding increased, which was good, but we did not use the local effort required for Floridians. So now property taxes pay for the chunk of those that education budget. So we reduced the property tax burden by $428 million. So you should see a tax cut in your property tax bill. As mentioned before, the fracking bills were killed in the Senate. Amendment $1 were used for Everglades and spring protection and restoration. As it relates to justice, the U.S. Supreme Court found our current death penalty scheme unconstitutional. And so I was one of the members, as the ranking member of the Criminal Justice Subcommittee. I believed that we did not go far enough. As Senator Thompson talked about, now it will take a 10-2 majority to sentence to death. I voted against this bill because I believe that strongly that we need to have a unanimous jury to sentence to death. We debated a gaming compact. So the gaming compact with the state of Florida and the Seminole Tribe of Florida has expired. And so we spent a lot of time dealing with the gaming compact. So how that worked is the governor negotiated a compact for another 20 years with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. But when it came to the legislature, it was amended to the point where it could not pass. So there are certain, for an example, there are certain counties that have a referendum where they passed to have slots in their counties, but because the gaming compact was already negotiated between the governor and the Seminole Tribe, these other portions of the bill that were amended basically weighed the bill down too much, and the Seminole Tribe would never have agreed to all these counties getting slots. So that bill was killed also. Finance and tax. This was another bill that I helped to craft the tax package that the governor wanted $1 billion, but we compromised to $129 million. There was a bill to regulate transportation companies such as Uber statewide. So what happens now is, for an example, Uber drivers may go from one county to the next, and there are different laws regulating those counties. And so we tried to have a statewide regulatory framework to regulate these transportation network companies. But it passed in the House, died in the Senate. So that is something that we'll have to work on again next year. And just moving on, a lot of these things you already heard. Medical cannabis for the terminally ill. And I just want to talk briefly about that because the process of how that bill moved through the legislature, I thought was wrong. Dan Rogers talked about it a little bit. So how it worked is we had 5 licensees for medical cannabis, to produce medical cannabis for the terminally ill. I put on an amendment to require 20 licensees. Again, they were trying to give a monopoly to these 5 companies, licensees. And so because of the structure of the committee, the Republicans were split. And so that gave the Democrats the power to put in an amendment to require more licensees. And so what happened was they took the amendment, they didn't want to, but they had to keep the bill going. And so what they did was, because they didn't like now having to have 20 licensees, they took the bill, put it back to its original 5 licensees, reverted it to another committee so it wouldn't come to the same committee, slapped a new bill number on it, and act as if it never was amended.
Wow.
And this is how things work in Tallahassee. You know, they change the rules depending on what they want to do. So it did pass with 5 licensees, but as Dan mentioned, we changed the conversation. There was a bill to repeal red light cameras that failed in the Senate. I received a number of calls to repeal red light cameras, which is a controversial issue. And just some notable bills. Civil citations died in the Senate. A bill to limit discretion of prosecutors when they are direct filing a juvenile going to adult prison. That was a bill that I co-sponsored, but it died. And basically, to end it, to talk about the budget, this was the first time that Democrats in the House unanimously supported the budget. And that was done through a lot of concessions that the Republicans took from the Democrats to get it to the point where we could support it. So we were proud of that. And just finally, I want to mention some of the vetoes of Governor Scott. You know, in 2014, when Governor Scott was reelected, he called my office and asked to meet with me. This was shortly after he beat Charlie Crist. And I sat down with him. And he said that, you know, we had an adversarial relationship up until that point. He had vetoed a lot of my bills. And, but he said he wanted to work together going forward. And so I told him that, look, we're not going to agree on about 80% of policy, but you say you want to create jobs. I want to create jobs for my district. And so I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to work with me. And that includes the budgetary process and us putting certain projects that will benefit our districts. And so I say that to say that the governor did not honor the conversation that we had 2 years ago. He has vetoed just about every project that has come to our district. And so I say that to say that I believe it's time that we start to plan for the Democrats to take back control of the legislature. That's right. 2016 will be a crucial year. 2016 will be a crucial year, especially for Senate Democrats. We have the opportunity to win 18 seats in the Senate, which almost brings us to an even split. And then 2018, we'll have the governor's race again. And if we can continue to expand upon that. And then in 2020, we will have reapportionment or redistricting, where we will have the opportunity to redraw the lines and have an opportunity to take back control of the legislature. So I think it's important that we stay engaged and that we continue to work toward progress for our party. So thank you.